Hey girl, welcome to my podcast, the place where inspiration meets empowerment, and where you're invited to embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery and growth. I'm your host, Andrea Leanne Anderson, and I'm beyond thrilled to have you here with us today. This podcast is all about helping you overcome your fears, embracing your true self, and ultimately taking control back over your life so you can achieve your wildest dreams. If you're going to stick around here, you have been forewarned that I will challenge you to have more faith than fear, and together we're going to explore the limitless possibilities that await you. So grab your cup of coffee, get comfy, and get ready to be inspired, motivated, and challenged for growth. So let's dive right in. Hey y'all, so it's kind of crazy that we're here right now, that I am now in my second episode. So I welcome you and I thank you for listening in, because I am just a baby podcaster and I appreciate every single in just each little moments of support. So I thank you for listening in. Today we are actually going to be talking about the death of consumption. Um, Kind of a crazy title, but it's more than fitting. I thought what we would talk about is something that actually impacted my life quite some time ago, and I find myself coming back to it even in these past few years of coming back to the knowledge and insights that I've learned. And so I thought it'd be great for those of you out there trying to, better yourselves, better your life, improve your mental health, to be a part of this conversation. But I'm essentially talking about consumption. Um, these days we are, and when I say consumption, I mean like literally consuming everything. So, like, what are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you watching? Every aspect of consumption. What this can be, it can be music. For most of us, it's probably social media. That's a really big one right now. And I'll kind of be touching mostly on this, but music is a really big one as well. What you're reading, what people you are around and who they are. Um, just your brain is constantly taking in information. Um, about the things that are you're listening to, watching, everything. And it's really important to take this in because it can extremely affect your mental health negatively or positively. And I think it's also important to notice that with like the rise of social media becoming a larger part of our each and everyday lives, that it becomes even bigger. Of a deal and even bigger of a problem sometimes. I mean, these days you hear more and more people saying, "Oh, sorry, like I'm taking a break from social media." Content creators completely deciding that they are no longer going to be content creators for a while and they're just going to step back, or switching platforms, or doing whatever they need to do just because of the overconsumption. Obviously, that's on the creation side, but even on the consumer side, I think we get so drawn in. I actually wanted to share some things with you guys. And part of that, what re-inspired this conversation as well. I was watching the Jay Shetty podcast. If you don't listen to that, listen to it for sure. But he was talking with Michelle Obama, and Michelle was talking about the not just the rise of consumption, but she was also talking about how, this is a new day and age for us, that our brains haven't done this before. Like our brains, and sorry if I'm misexplaining it, I really hope that you do go and watch and listen to it. But Michelle was talking about how our brains aren't prepared to process this much information yet. Like we are in, like, the example that she gave is that we are, kind of in our best, I think she said, economical state. Hey y'all, so I'm just going to go ahead and correct myself here. What she had actually said is that if you look at historically and statistically, that the best time to be born is right now because we are in our best state in regards to like wars and freedom. And so she actually in regards said historically and statistically. Just want to hop in here and correct myself so that no one's confused. That we've ever been in. Um, and yet with the, rise of social media, it feels like we're in our worst. And a large part of that, yeah, is due to the social media um and it's that, these things, different things have always been going on, but now we just know about it, right? And that's one aspect of it, of being able to like process that information. But the stat that I wanted to share with you was from New Line Health. They say that more than 69% of adults and 81% of teens use social media daily, with more than 90% of teens using it more than 4 hours a day. And I think they go on to talk about how, the average adult or the average person um, goes on to social media about 2.5 hours. And, to my understanding, these aren't like super recent stats either. And we all know it's risen even more, um, which is crazy because it feels like these days, like if you don't go about it right, it feels like these days that we live on social media. You have Apple that just now came out with the goggles, right? And that's created a whole rise of like controversy, but we all knew it was coming. But with that being said, like our lives, a large part of it is social media, and that's just how it is. Like even professionally, it has made impact. It's not even just I think it was Mel Robbins who had said like social media isn't for your friends and family anymore. Like that's not what it's used for. Like don't use it for that anymore. And so we're in this transition of like social media becoming more of a thing, and even with AI, it's become just even this like ball that's just been building. But and it's crazy. The second stat I wanted to tell you about is from Pew Research Center. They said that 92% of US adults get their news from digital devices, with 57% reporting that they sometimes find it overwhelming. Again, back to what Michelle Obama was saying, our brains are having a hard time processing these amounts of information. Like the effects that social media is having on our mental health, on our brains is crazy. And I think that's exactly why you see people logging off. I myself, very, very frequently in the past year, and before that as well, but more frequently in the past year, have decided to completely step back and turn either delete the app or use like screen time functions, if you're an Apple user, and just decide to like, go ghost, what some people say. But there's been many times where I've been like, this is just too much. That is not adding to my life positively. So I need to step back. And I think it's important that we decide to do those little digital detoxes. But it's to no surprise that I see more and more people doing this because it is extremely overwhelming. And then the fact that majority of people are getting their news from digital devices, and not just that, there was another stat, I had it somewhere, about a third of young adults use go to social media for their news daily. Not even just their digital device, going to social media for their news, which is crazy to me. I mean, I guess especially for me, being someone who is like technically Gen Z but grew up with millennial, I'm like right on the cusp. Like my childhood experience was still seeing the newspaper like be on the sidewalk, like they throw it on your porch and like you go run it to your parents. Like it's just crazy to think that we're even at this point, but not just that, but just also with the rise of AI and all that, it just seems a little concerning. But at the same time, it's not. It's just this new age. But all of this to say that there is an overwhelming rise of information that we were taking in. And even if you don't realize it like at the forefront, our subconscious minds are always taking in information and storing it. Like our minds are always processing information even when we don't listen. Like when you're listening to music, right? You're listening to music, subconsciously, your brain is taking in that information. Even if you're not like really listening to it, like say you're actually thinking about something else, or it's just going on in the background while you're cleaning and you're just like enjoying the beats. Most of us listen to music for the beats, right? Especially for like me these days where the music just doesn't, just, we're not going to get into that. But it, we're subconsciously always taking information and building beliefs around what we're listening to. And I guess I have to get kind of like take it further and give an example. When we listen to music that isn't healthy for our brains, our or isn't actually healthy in general, like say we're listening to like um music, let's say like the R&B genre, and you're, jamming out to music, but really the words that are on the music is saying, talking about cheating and breakups and all of these things. Our subconscious brains are taking in that information, even if it's not your moral belief that it's okay, right? Because like different things can happen when you're subconsciously listening to it. You can take in that you can start to believe that like maybe it's okay to cheat and start to believe that, right? Or, maybe your morals are actually like really strong and like that's never the case for you, even subconsciously. But do you know what could still happen is that now it's shaping your belief that there must be a lot of cheaters out there. That it's like super common to cheat, even if you're not okay with it. So you start building these beliefs just from these like songs that you listen to, and they're not even accurate. Sometimes they're not even written from like an actual real life experience. I actually think a lot of times these days that music is actually not even written from experience, that it's written for fun or that it sounds good with the music. But anywho, we're always taking in information. I think it also goes to say like when we are on social media and we're scrolling, and like these days if it's on Instagram Reels or TikTok, it's feeding us information and it tries to adjust what we like or what we're watching. But let me give you a real life example. For me, this has been happening to me. I am a mother of two little boys, right? Okay. Social media will feed me videos that scare the life out of me. And I already have high anxiety, so I'm already super prone to like being scared. But I'll start seeing tons of content about like video footage from like robberies or someone breaking inside of the home, or like footage of like actual footage of like crimes, um of like bad things happening to mothers or kids or always something. And this created so much anxiety for me because then when I was out, in the world just taking my kids to the park, I am now, it's important to be watchful, right? I am just someone but I'm already someone who's watchful. I'm already someone who has high anxiety. I'm already someone who's like constantly knows who's behind me, to the left of me, to the right of me, all of it. But with these extra aspects of like getting these feelings of stress from watching these videos, when I actually go out, like I'm overly watchful to where it's like crippling, um going out with my kids. I used to not even take my kids to the park because of the fears that I have. And when it starts to become to like affects your life, in your everyday life and your like everyday well-being. Like nowadays I do take my kids out, and like I literally need to take my kids out every day for my health, my mental health, my physical health, everything. So when it starts to impact your life negatively, that's where you have to like start evaluating and making different decisions. And you can't control like what comes in your feed, right? And I think different things can happen like that. I mean, I think we've all experienced the comparisons of like we're seeing these different girls and these influencers and the content creators showing you the newest thing that they got, Amazon favorites, like each thing one after another, constantly showing you information. And it gives you this feeling of like, it can give you this feeling of wanting more and like wanting to consume, and like the pitfall, literally like what I named this, the death of consumption. You start to like want these different things, and nothing is ever enough, and seeing all of what you desire, having once is not a problem, right? But like it's when it gets taken to for fuller extents. And obviously, there's two things to be said about that, right? There's one aspect of like, what are you consuming? And then the other aspect of like, sometimes it can actually show you what you need to work on within yourself, right? So, like, for that example of like wanting, from seeing, the social media posts of like people buying new things or the nice homes or the whatever it is, then it does shine a light on the insecurities within yourself that you have to also begin to work on. Like, okay, why do I feel the need that buying this thing or having this beautiful home is going to make my life better? Or like, why do I feel that if this person has it, why does it make me feel this way? Right? Go ahead and unpack that with your therapist or in a journal, something. But like, that is an important aspect of it as well. But I think the consumption on the front end is a whole other thing. And that's kind of what I'm focusing on here. But it's what we're being fed and how our brains are processing it. Um, and like, come on, I know this is common for most of us, um, that we're experiencing these things. And I actually grabbed a stat as well on the effects it's having on mental health, mood, overall well-being. Um, so what I have here is, so it says 59% of adults who use social media report that it has impacted their mental health. 41% of women feel pressure to present themselves in a certain way, and 63% on social media report more loneliness. And it goes on and on. He kept giving different stats of these things, but it's very real that it affects our mental health. And again, this is an era that we haven't gone through before. This is new. I think I saw something the other day where it was like, I told my kids I'm older than Google. I'm like, wow, I am older than Google. That's crazy. But it's real because I don't remember that being a thing when I was young. So it's it's just crazy how things have changed. But also how it is now, it's important for us to pay attention to the mental health. It's important for us to pay attention to how social media is affecting us. And I think for many people, they find it affecting them negatively. So I pay attention to it. Take the breaks when you need to take the breaks. I'm going to give a few more tips as well as we go on. But I was reading one of the other things I wanted to share was from Mel Robbins. She said, most of us are using social media the wrong way. Okay, she says, she goes on and she says, every account you follow, you are giving them the most important thing you have, which is your time and your attention. Boom. That's how I feel when I heard that one. Because that's real. That's the most important thing. Time. I'm giving you my time. everyone's always talking about they're so busy, right? You're giving them more when you give social media time, you better make sure that time is used well. One, because we don't know how long we have on this lifetime, but also two, because we can spend time doing more things that we love or being around the people that we love. So, giving something my time, just like how this new world we're talking about boundaries and we're not going to give certain people our time. How about social media? How much time are you giving social media and even our attention? I've very guilty of this. I think all of us are of the scroll where you're just endlessly scrolling and for whatever reason, like you just keep scrolling. I found myself just before a couple months ago, I did like a little detox, tapped off, turned off all of my apps. I think I turned them off for a month or two. It felt really good, to be honest. But I turned them off, and the reason was because literally just before that, I found myself scrolling way too often. And mind you, I'm a very productive person. I'm a very like type A. I'm always on it. I'm on a schedule. Like I'm super busy. I have my businesses, everything. But I found myself in the scroll just like way too often. And not just that, but I would like, it was when I started to realize, man, I keep scrolling through these videos, but when I'm done scrolling, I feel like crap after. Sorry, I don't know if I shouldn't. I, sorry, I shouldn't have cursed just now. Forgive me, Lord. But I, I did not feel good. Okay. It just did not. I just felt so low each time I was done. And yet I would do it the next day or later that night again. Like, why am I scrolling for interest? Like, and I think too, it's different than it was before, right? Because we kind of get to curate our feeds, and I'll talk more about that, but we kind of get to curate our feeds, but on the other hand, we don't. With platforms like TikTok or with like Instagram Reels, they're trying to feed us new things all the time and giving us new creators. Before that wasn't like it's accessible. They weren't pushing like new accounts or like new creators and just testing things. Like nowadays I can go on my explore page and like there be so much that I didn't even like of just like random things that I didn't care about. So that can happen now more than what it used to. But the point is that we are giving our accounts, we're giving these people that we follow our time and our attention. And these are two very important things that we have. Anything you have attention to, it grows. Um, and kind of like foster a space in your mind. So it's really important. And that just reminded me. That's why that reminded me my train of thought, sorry. But when when I experienced and realized that I kept scrolling, I was like, no, this has to go. And turned off the apps. And it felt really, really good. Um, there are times when we just need to turn off the world. Um, and we just need to be quiet. Let it be quiet. Let it be silent. Be with ourselves. And I think another important thing is to actually go and be with people. On that like little detox I did the last time, I learned so much from myself and about myself. But during that time I realized, well, just before I had turned it off, I was like, man, I follow all these people on social media, right? Different old friends. I mean, people who are just acquaintances. You saw them from high school, or, you met them once upon a time at different periods in your life. I still have some of those on my thing, and I think most of us do or have an account that does. But I was realizing, wow, I follow these people and like I know like, oh, I'm just making up names. Sherry had a baby And oh yeah, like Sean got married to Karen, and I don't know why I'm choosing all of these names. But we're seeing people have babies, get married, do like graduate college, or like seeing people's kids grow up. And I'm like, it's crazy because we start to feel in our minds that we know so much about people based off of social media. Like I realized like, man, I feel like I know so much about this person, but when's the last time I talked to them? Like, yeah, maybe I like commented on their story or something, or like sent a message or two. Okay. And some of them, none. But in like real life, do I know them? No, I don't know them anymore. Like, I've met them before and I see them on social media, and I'm like, that is so unhealthy. Like, we need human connection, and social media is just not going to do it. Like, me seeing that you had a baby and commenting congratulations, that is not enough support for that mother. Like, that's not enough support for that mother. Having an in-person congratulations, like actually being in person and celebrating that person, or like being in their home or meeting them for coffee, buying them a thing, like get offline. Like, I think we've gotten to a point where we forgot that, like, we used to bring, like, as kids, we used to bring like eggs outside. I lived in Arizona, okay, but we used to bring eggs outside and try to watch it fry on the sidewalk. Like, that's what we would do for fun. Like, we would chase each other back from like houses to houses. That's not what young people are doing these days. They're on social media. And we could talk about the effects of that later, right? But that's not the world anymore. And but it can be. This past month or so, I have been super intentional about literally writing into my calendar multiple events where I am either meeting people and like fostering it. I guess all of it is really fostering community. Like, I'm either meeting new people, like went to like a specific group, like a mom group, a business group, a knitting group, an art group, like purposely scheduling in time. There's communities out there, like your local communities have it. Yes, get over the awkward feeling. Yes, don't get too caught up in like, what if it's this, what if it's that. Go in there with an open mind. It may be great, it may be all right, it may be amazing, but we're just going to go through it. Go and experience life outside of being online. This is really important, especially for the parents. We need to be with our kids, like present. Not just like, oh, we're both on our phones while our kids are watching TV or on the iPad. Like, yes, we all need a break, right? Like, I'm not a no screen mom, but what I want to say is like, it's important for us to also have those times where like we're going to go play on the playground. We're going to play with the blocks on the floor and we're going to talk to each other. I think we're starting to lose our social skills. And we're starting to care more about how we perceive ourselves, and are trying to micromanage how people see us and what they see and what they think of us based off of what we post. But we aren't making real human connections. Like, how many people I know that like actively post on social media, but then also actively in their internal life are actually very lonely, but they have millions of likes. The likes aren't enough. We need real human interaction. We need real people sitting right there with us, having real conversations with us, because that human nature need will always be there. I don't know if electronics will always be there. It's looking like it will, but we as a human race need human connection. It says it all over the Bible. And you know what else it says in the Bible? In Proverbs 4:23, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Or in other translations, it will say, for all that everything flows from it. And that's so real. I don't care if you're not Christian or not. Like, that's so real. We have to protect our heart. When we go into social media, protect your heart, guard it, because your heart, you need your heart to be able to make the impact that you're going to make. You need to be able to flow. You need to be able to love on your children, love on your family, love on just people in the world who need it. The world needs people. The world needs good people and people who actually want to say hello when they pass you on the street and not just a like on Instagram, not just a follow on Instagram. Real connection. We need these things. And so it's important more than ever. So I'll leave you with some tips. And these are things that I've actually literally done myself. First is set time limits. I put screen time on my phone. And even if that's like an annoying app for you, maybe even just set on the screen time that like I have mine set to where like certain hours I can't go on specific apps. And so it just kind of like helps that prevention process. And if you want to, you can. It's your phone. Your phone's not getting taken over, but it kind of like set, or even like an alarm on your phone, set an alarm for a specific time of day. Like, this is where I turn off my phone and we're in family time or we're in marriage time or by myself time. This is where I don't consume more content. My second tip to you is to curate your feed. You need to start. So, our feeds, right? There's an algorithm, right? So, right now, yes, there's more explore. So besides that part, the uncontrollable part, but here's the part you can control, so we're going to focus on it, is pay attention to what you're liking and also like what you're watching. So like when you're watching a reel and it plays like 3 times over, you're actually telling Instagram, show me more of this. So like when I was watching those very anxiety ridden like crimes, it's telling my feed to like give me more of that. And so it kind of became my own problem from watching it. I wouldn't even like it. I would even click not interested. But they're like, clearly you're interested because you're watching. But pay attention to what you're watching. Pay attention to what you're liking. You need to start unfollowing people. Seriously. I did this many years ago because I realized that my how I felt about myself and like my self-worth and confidence was way low. And I was also in a transition period where I was trying to like better my life. Like I stopped any use of like I stopped use of like alcohol or any like drug use or anything like that. I stopped everything. Um and sorry, I shouldn't say like drug use. I mean weed. But like I stopped anything like smoking and drinking and partying. I stopped all of it. But one of my problems was is that like I was following a lot of people that were still, and I didn't want to unfollow them because I'm like, "Oh, these are still my friends," or like, "These are my acquaintances. I don't hate them. Why would I unfollow them?" But I unfollowed them because I was like, I need to have I need to not be seeing this all the time because again, what you see, you start to believe. So me seeing it started to make me feel like, oh my gosh, everybody does it. Is it no big deal? I didn't want that to happen in my own like brain processing. And I also didn't want to ever have any type of FOMO or any type of influence or anything like that. So what I started to do was unfollow people. It's okay to unfollow people. It doesn't mean you don't like them. You can give them a call. You can send them a text if you really cared, right? I'm assuming that you probably aren't going to text them or call them or anything like that. And look, maybe you'll follow them in the future when that changes in life. But that was a really big deal for me, being able to unfollow people, even people that I knew. And then I would unfollow people anytime I felt negative. If there were specific people sometimes that I would just feel negative or have negative thoughts every time I saw their content. And it had nothing to do with them. You know, that's more of like a reflection of myself, but it was still important for me to unfollow people. Or even accounts that like I unfollowed tons of like political accounts or accounts that were um really for good causes sometimes. Um but like any activism counts because like my brain personally, I was having, as like someone who's an empath, I was having such impact mentally from watching those. Like, I couldn't take it anymore. My hurt in my heart, like, I was crying from seeing posts every day because of the pain in the world or because of what I was consuming. And that was just not healthy for me. I had to unfollow. And I can go and Google if I need to learn something about the politics or if I need to learn something about what's going on in the world. I can do that, but I get to choose. I'm not going to just have you in my feed anymore. And so I started unfollowing people. Another thing that you can actually do that's a newer feature now, and I use it all the time, is one, you can click not interested. You click those three little dots, click not interested, and you're giving a signal to your social media account that's not interested on specifically Instagram. I don't know what other platforms have it, but you can click not interested and you're telling it to like, hey, don't feed me this content anymore. And I do that with everything. I click not interested with so many things just because I'm like, no, I don't want to see this anymore. And another thing you can do is like for the instance of people that maybe are friends or old acquaintances and you don't necessarily want to unfollow them. One, I promise you, no one's actually paying attention. Like really, they're not really paying attention. And if they were, and they genuinely cared about you, they would send a message. But more chances than not, if you're feeling this way, it's probably not even a big deal. But say you're having a hard time with this. Another thing you can do is you can actually mute people's stories so you don't see them on your stories every day. And then you can also mute people's posts so you don't see their posts. Unless you go to their profile, then you can. But it's just not going to feed you it in your feed or on your story feed. So those have been useful as well. Obviously you need to ask yourself like, hey, why do I want to follow them still? And really dissect that. But that's a great way to do that as well. And I would say even like talking on the things of like curating what you're consuming. Like I said, I did heavy on social media, but I'm also talking about music. I stopped listening to non-secular music. And what that means is like, so I'm a Christian, right? And I stopped listening to any music that isn't about God or isn't like joyous or doesn't honor my values and beliefs. And I encourage you to do that too. And what's really cool about our day and age is that's not hard to do. There is tons of Christian R&B that is really, really good. There's tons of Christian Afro beats, which are my favorite. Tons of Christian rap, and it's actually good. There's so many artists, you just have to look for them. Reach out to me, I will send them. Maybe I should do a post about all the ones that I listen to, or I even have my own playlists. But I stopped listening to the music, even though I have like music artists that I did love, and I'm like, darn, but I'm not missing out. I don't need to be hearing about all these other things that are just so unhealthy. Like, why do we listen to music that is like we would never do in life? Like, why would we listen to music that doesn't actually help us in life or doesn't like something that doesn't actually align with our morals and values? Like, we need to make sure those are all aligned. Even with the content, like, make sure your morals and values are aligning. Make sure it's, for me, it's honoring God, but like, honor yourself. It's honoring God and honoring myself, but like honor yourself. Start knowing and paying attention to like what your values and morals are and like don't settle for less. And I think, start evaluating your friend groups as well. That's a big one. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So, who do you spend time around? And do you want their lives? And who are your mentors? Do you want their lives? Or aspects of their lives? Do they actually like inspire you? Do they make your life better? Everything. And I've said it many times, but take a digital detox. Step away. I promise you, challenge yourself to step away. I think for the month of January, I turned off my social media on my phone and only checked it on my computer. And I still kind of do that now, only for business, really. And maybe a message here or there, but turn it off when you need to turn it off. Take a break, take the rest. It will be there when you get there. Even if you need social media for business, it will still be there. Everything that is for you will still come for you. And I promise you, when you come back to it, you're going to have a fresh mind and you're going to realize, okay, this is how I got to roll. And pay attention to, offline activities. Start being in person with people. Like, you shouldn't have more online, how do I say this? You should have more relationships in person than like fake ones online. And what I mean by fake is like, like I said, like and follow is not a relationship. That's not. You need to see people in person. You need to have in person conversations. You need to, I mean, it doesn't even have to be in person. Call somebody, for goodness sake. If you know people, call them. Show them love. Because your little post on social media, they may not even seen it. And other people's either. We're always all worried about ourselves, but when you can go offline, you can be more worried about other people and loving them more fully. Anywho, that is my rant for today, guys. I really hope you receive something from it. I love to talk all things mindset development, personal development, and I will have more content for this, like this, for you as we go on. But please give a follow or subscribe. I believe you can even comment on some of these platforms, so I would much appreciate it. And thank you again for listening. I know this was a bit of a a bit of a ramble, but I appreciate it. And y'all have a good one now. Bye.